You know, I think the stans finally get it. I think they really do get the point that no matter what happens and no matter what they try to intimidate us with, well, I'm gonna say the thing, but what I did tell them is that I will chill out and I'll just say it a little bit lower today. So now when it comes to hold up, we are not doing that. And get ready and say it with me. Now when it comes to Drake, if you are ready to see how the Ice Spice Man just got himself into even more trouble and within this, from sending messages to people like me and you who are just discussing the truth, to throwing subliminals at Kendrick Lamar, to trying to tease more red buttons, to also getting himself within some major controversy that is showing that the Ice Spice Man is also the garbage man in any way you want to put it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out a ton, and it makes sure that no matter what, we can keep saying the thing. And so let's just get into this and let's see what Drake has done, which this time around, you know, you would start to think, after having the crash out run that you have had for the last week or so, and after being in all of the headlines for all the wrong reasons, is after losing the lawsuit, well, things have never looked worse for Drake and everybody knows it. You would think that maybe the most polarizing move you have ever made in your career ultimately working against you, that you would try to do something to get some sort of goodwill back with your fans and just the culture that you need to be successful. I don't know, maybe it would be like dropping a good song or just saying sorry or doing something that would just make everybody sit here and say, hey, I guess this walking cupcake isn't as bad as we thought. We haven't seen any of that, and what we have seen is Drake just dig deeper and deeper to try and plant his flag of the Legion of Lames in the ground that is telling us that this is who he is and he is not going to change for a single thing, and this is what he wants. And you know, at this point, what I just think everybody needs to consider and everybody needs to think, no matter what side you stand on and no matter how much grace you try to show Drake, because I feel like that's really been a thing with a lot of these people in hip-hop who are expecting the old Drake to come back or just expecting him to do something respectful. That's all over, that's all out of the way, because if this guy wanted to change and if this guy wanted to make strides to improve, he would have, but we haven't seen that at all, and we are now at the point where he has dug such a major hole that really there is no re-entrance to hip-hop culture, and whatever Drake is, he is just always going to be an outsider who is standing in something completely different, that maybe musically and conventionally in terms of his sound, there may be elements of hip-hop in it, but he is just not hip-hop, and everybody needs to know that. And why I am really saying this now is because after failure, which comes from crazy crash-out conspiracies from OVO, and then goes all the way from the new snippet that he just dropped, which is his first song since the lawsuit, and he's just weirdly dissing Kendrick Lamar and A$AP Rocky on it with some of the worst bars ever that really make DDG sound like he's Nas or something. Well, with all of that, Drake has decided to make an even bigger response to the hate, and you know, as music doesn't work for him and it doesn't even get people talking the way it once did, and there's clearly just something so missing and wrong from everything, what Drake has decided to do is go to his favorite medium, which you probably guessed it if you've been here for a while, in none other than social media. And with the cupcake cosplaying loser, he decided to make a response post where he is trying to get everybody's attention and just send a message. And so how did Drake do this? He posted 7 photos that honestly, I guess have more depth than his actual albums, which, hey, I guess that means something. But we are just going to get into this and see what manipulation really looks like on Drake's part to keep his fan base intact. And although it's making us more mad and it's making us just see that he's crashing out more and more by the second, his fans are running with the red button narrative again, because with the caption, "Got this Barbie on my wrist," and as we will see, there's some connections with Drake and watches and the number 4 that people think is going to lead to something that Drake is doing and maybe scary hours for. Which, you know, if you're still doing all these weird social media games and you're trying to tease music or send whatever messages, I just say drop, because if you actually believe in the body of work you're going to put out, you shouldn't have to post your fake abs to try and brag about it. Which, let's just start looking at these 7 photos, which, well, does start with just that. And I mean, honestly, listen, I'm not going to sit here and talk about this for too long because who really does care? But at the same time, as they are clearly fake. And I mean, Kendrick told us about that, Gunna told us about that, and a lot of other people have said it, like Rick Ross as well. While some people may be fooled from this who are not in the know or who were just easily manipulated and convinced by anything that Drake does, I guess more on the stan side of things, it is actually pathetic, not even just to do this, but to brag about it the way you have, because come on, we can all see it and the game is up. But beyond this, well, after trying to look all artsy with lame pictures, Drake posted another flick where he is shown how embarrassing of a man he is, which says life is short, party hard, he's sitting with a pink shirt, he's got something to drink, he's got his Barbie watch on, and well, you can see Drake has a computer, which now some people are speculating may have Iceman on it and all these other things. Drake is getting some controversy for this, and the reason why is because next to the Hello Kitty sticker, which, come on, 40-year-old man with a Hello Kitty sticker, that should tell you something very concerning. There's also a name for a group, which I can't say the first name, but the last name is Angels. And with this group, this is a group that's been connected to a lot of bad stuff. And people in Canada have given Drake a lot of backlash and flack just for associating and affiliating with these people because they have done bad for the very communities Drake is saying that he is supposed to care about. And really just with this, I don't want to look too much into it and really just go on too long of a tangent, but I do think just seeing a Hello Kitty picture next to one of the worst groups that I guess you could associate with, at least according to the people in Canada and to a lot of other people, this just shows how confused Drake is and how much he craves any sort of validation and attention, and really for him. Listen, this is why a lot of people, including myself, don't like him. There is no respectable moral code. It's all just for clout, and it's all just to do whatever makes his weird fantasies happen. But you know, beyond that, the other things that Drake has put here which are making people talk is first off, another post with the Barbie watch, which again, people think is gonna lead to this bigger moment where Drake drops something or reveals a big part of his master plan, as he has posted this before. Even in the caption, he is mentioning the Barbie watch. And you know, the Drake stans are so desperate for anything that they are trying to make this have any sort of value or symbolism. But really for me, even if Drake is actually intending to do this to try and get his fans excited and make them speculate and just make them think that he actually has something in his mind that is going to positively benefit his career and their experience as fans, I don't think that for a second. And I think with what Drake is doing, this is the equivalent to more conspiracy, and you know what, I'm going to say it, red button slop, which is just going back to this idea that Drake keeps teasing these bigger things and these bigger moments, and like he is this mastermind, but there's never actually anything other than sheer and utter delusion. And now with the other thing that Drake put in this message to respond to all of the lawsuit hate and everything going on in his career, where, you know, he figured the best way to respond to all of this in the first place was by putting a Hello Kitty sticker on his computer and showing it to everybody and showing off his fake abs. Well, in the midst of all that, Drake also put up a shirt that somebody was wearing, I guess at one of his shows, that says, "Hating Drake doesn't make you deep." And with this, his fans have been running around with this. They've been trying to use this as their new gotcha moment to try and discredit everybody that hates on Drake. And you know, with the way it's already being used, they're almost acting like it's the new jingle or lingo that they are going to use to just try and put people in a box who don't like Drake and really just act like they are the problem, when of course, if we look in reality, well, we know who is. But really, just looking at this and reading this, hating Drake doesn't make you deep. And you know, there were so many people in the Drake community and in OVO who were really not stopping with their thoughts and commentary on this and were trying to come at people. And you know, I'm sure when this did come out, they were definitely thinking about how they don't want me to say the thing. Well, listen, what my response is to this very idea and narrative that Drake has put out and his fans are trying to run with about hating Drake doesn't make you deep. Well, I guess I agree, it doesn't make you deep, but it does make you media literate. It makes you care about hip-hop culture. It means you like good hip-hop. It means you don't support suing over rap beefs. It means that you didn't stick around and stand for the worst era in hip-hop history where we were getting songs like Tootsie Slide and CLB, and we had to act like all of these things were good and that this is what the best rapper in the world should release. And it just means that you have self-respect. You don't like bringing people's women into beefs when you are confronting the man, which then also means that you don't support lying and constantly deceiving your very fan base to try and get some sort of an up on everybody. And it also means that you probably do study rap battles for a living, because if you like Drake, and if you are Drake, you definitely don't, besides you saying that. And you know, I could keep going, I got a lot more of those, but really you get the point. And with this, I don't care what Drake says about hating on him and how it's bad and how it doesn't make you deep and whatever other cringe things that he tries to push. Because again, what Drake is clearly showing here, or what he is clearly trying to push across at the very least to his fans, and I guess anybody who is still willing to support him, is that he doesn't understand the basic reason why he's getting all of the hate that he does, or at the very least, again, he is trying to just deflect from it. Because if he did, he would understand that all of the backlash he gets is not just because it's the convenient or fun thing to do and people are just doing it because, you know, he's a popular name and that's it. But it's because at the end of the day, for people like myself and for a lot of others, at every single step and move that you have taken, you have actively just destroyed and really mocked the entirety of hip-hop culture and tried to morph it into something that it just never should have been one. And now it's not just like you lost and the direction you wanted to take things in didn't go that way, and now you've kind of changed course, or you're trying to just beef with your opponents in a way that could be respectable with diss tracks and, you know, just chess moves like that. That's not happening at all, and what did you do? You put the very future of rap music in the air with the entire Not Like Us lawsuit. And again, Drake, if it was up to you, you really would have compromised the freedom of expression in hip-hop just to get the validation that you didn't lose a beef as bad as you did. And just to see that, from that very principle alone, it is all of the reasons that I will ever need to just never stand on your side again, never enjoy any of the music you put out, and never respect you at the table that any of the other rap legends can walk into and always just sit down and be praised for. And so with that, that's the reason why you are being hated on for the way you are. And even with this entire lawsuit response, it's only making things worse because it's showing that even within this process where now you went to the courts, thought the courts were going to help you. Of course, if you remember the discourse around Judge Vargas, who was the one working the case, everybody was saying she was going to make the right decision and she was amazing. And now after things went in the other direction, they are saying that she's inexperienced and she knew nothing and this is a big mistake and that this whole thing was a setup. Well, overall, what this group has shown is that at every corner possible, you never learn and you just continue to keep going down the maze of delusion more and more to the point where now you're never going to find your way back and you're never going to be able to participate in just regular hip hop and music and even cultural discussions like the rest of us would. And so really with Drake, and I think his fans need to realize this at this point, because I think as long as the Drake stans are just following him and really just fueling all of these delusions, things are only going to get worse and worse. Drake really needs to get to a point where he is going to have no other choice but to humble himself, because to keep walking around this arrogantly and like you are above everybody else, and at the same time we all see that you are below everybody else, and well, the only thing you are clinging on to are influencer games that make you look more like a Jake Paul or an Aiden Ross than a Kendrick Lamar or a Nas or a Jay-Z. Well, ultimately for Drake, I think now is the time where you are really at the crossroads and you have to think about if you do actually want to continue your rap career and call yourself a musician, or if you really just want to double down and be whatever type of professional crash out that you've been, and, you know, be a part of those circles that you've been so desperately trying to hold on to however you can really since the beef. And you know, for Drake, when it comes to this whole idea of being a musician, it's never going to be the way it was, because both he has been kicked out of hip-hop, really. And, you know, honestly, when we listen to his new music, it's just so bad and unmemorable that I don't know if there's really anything even in the tank. Drake is really just at a point where everything is crumbling, and I don't know when it's going to stop. And so just seeing that and seeing the reality of everything here, well, what I would expect and what I think we're going to see more of, especially with this whole Hello Kitty thing and the other group there, which is definitely going to cause a lot of controversy and only continue to get him more backlash, because it's just showing how insensitive and out of touch with anything decent that Drake is. Well, ultimately, with the lawsuit loss and with his music career being lost on everybody who needed to listen for it to be successful, I think we are going to see Drake just immerse himself within this crash out era more and more. And with that, to be quite honest, as we have already seen how much things have changed even in just a matter of a few days, because the guy does not stop and the guy has continued to just bother everybody and embarrass himself more, I don't even know where this is going to end up anymore, and I'm not even going to keep trying to predict it. But what I will say is that, you know, is we are seeing hip-hop really change and grapple with its very existence right now, and a lot of this is all because of Drake and the downfall and really almost separation that it feels like is happening between what rap has been and the Cupcake Karen. I think at the same time as all of this, and of course as Kendrick Lamar is still outside and doing great things, this is ultimately going to bring us to a point now where eventually we are going to be in a culture with less Drake, more Kendrick, more great rappers, less trash ones, and more great music at the core of it, which, if you ask me, is always going to be what really matters more than anything else. So yeah, that's all I got today. What do you think about Drake just embarrassing himself more? And I honestly gotta ask you guys, and I'm genuinely curious, what do you think is the reason why he keeps coming out day after day and just embarrassing himself within the manner we are? Because really with these things, from the leaked song that we just talked about to this, Drake has really just continued to spiral within a way like I have never seen anybody spiral in the past. Listen, if you made it to this point in the video, what I want to say is thank you, and I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great weekend. And so if you made it to this point in the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help me and make sure that I can say the thing and they won't stop me. And listen, guys, I hope you have a great weekend, but if you want to stick around with me for a little longer, well, if you didn't see how before this, Drake released his first song since the lawsuit and kind of reacted, or at least set a precedent on how he is feeling. And with everything he has done, he has absolutely embarrassed himself, and it is so bad. I mean, this is one of the worst songs I have ever heard, and honestly, that's just the start of it. Check out the suggested video.